check, check. This is Fire, and this is the Coronation podcast. On this episode, I have the great brethren Ras Shaun in the building, independent researcher, Pan-Africanist, scholar, real Rastaman, in the building for whole of reasoning. And we'll give thanks. Seeing now, more there, them check out the reasoning. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, share. It's the Coronation podcast with Ras Shaun. Bless.
So, New York State,
Cool. Right now it's cool. We got the first real snowstorm of 2024, so just get inside and holding a vibe.
True. Brethren, there's so much things going on. You know what I mean? So much to talk about. But you know what? I could start with something we did a reason about from time. Something we always a reason about. And it's you that bring this to me to Egypt-Ethiopia connection.
I see. Yes, well, it's all a oneness from creation, to be honest, man. It's just, our enemies and the people who wish to see Africa in disunity and disharmony. They just been sowing seeds of disunity and disorganization from ever since we came in contact with them, But in the truth is, to be honest, Ethiopia to Egypt, or some like to call it by its ancient name, Kemet.
Yes, sir.
Like mom and daughter, which in Ethiopia would be the mother civilization, a more ancient civilization,
right,
that once ruled the known world, North to east, west, the Kushites conquered the world before anyone. Basically, Egypt or Kemet is her daughter, her oldest daughter.
So, the oldest daughter of Ethiopia is Kemet, right?
Is Kemet. That's right.
All right. You ever hear this talk about this Mesopotamia being older than Ethiopia? Because I hear certain scholars come on these programs, Joe Rogan, they come on various programs, and they like to talk about the past and the ancient past and ancient civilizations, and they like to dwell on this Mesopotamian culture being the oldest,
Yeah, in truth, well, that goes part and part in with Western curriculum. Everywhere in the Western Hemisphere, or that's governed by European thought, because it might not even be in their domains necessarily, but anywhere on the planet where they govern, they give you the whole Mesopotamian idea or credulous civilization theory, But in truth, we know that Europeans call her Lucy, but the native name for her is Decanesh, which means our beloved. She's the oldest Homo sapien found on planet Earth, meaning she's the mother of all human beings. She's the oldest being that was found. Her remains was found in Ethiopia.
Wow.
And their theory is to take the cradle of civilization out of Africa and put it in the so-called Middle East or Mesopotamia area. And they usually come with the Sumeria argument, and Sumeria is old and so on and so forth. But the truth is, the most ancient place on the planet is Ethiopia as far as civilization is concerned.
Right.
Yes,
and it has always been known as the birthplace of civilization. Yes.
All the ancient cultures tell you that. Even the religious texts tell you that, from the Torah to the Quran to the Bible, all of them tell you Ethiopia is the first.
Exactly.
Even the Greeks tell you that. The Greeks tell you that the Ethiopians were the first to worship the gods and the first to civilize, and that their gods, Zeus and these other mythological beings, used to travel to Ethiopia to feast amongst the Ethiopians.
Wow.
Yeah, this is what the Greek scholars tell you themselves in their writings.
Seen.
Yeah.
So even who modern Europeans have as the greatest historians, they will tell you that their gods and their great ones studied in Ethiopia. In Egypt as well. Sorry.
Definitely, yes.
Egypt, in Kemet. Talking about that now. Atlantis. I hear talk about Atlantis too. Means as you say, we have Tehuti right there. But then now Plato come with Thoth the Atlantean.
Yeah, so I'm glad you said Plato because Plato is the source of the Atlantis literature and theories because he's the when you check he's the oldest to write about the city of Atlantis, this floating city of Atlantis.
Right.
And yeah, I like to take a more skeptical approach, and I'm a skeptic until it's proven,
True.
until it's to me and I have sometimes tangible fact or evidence showing me these things. But what I can say, there were many. The Earth is a big place. The planet is a big place, and it was mostly water. At different periods of time. So I can't say that there aren't civilizations out there that went under the water table as the water table raised.
Right.
You know,
True.
as the ice caps melt and these kind of things.
Exactly. It's whole heap of cities that
Yeah,
even within the
yeah,
past like 400 years, cities that have gone underwater because of raising water levels and ice
yeah,
caps melting and yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But to get caught in the mystery and the mystifiers, to me, is just another objective to take creation and civilization outside of Africa. You see, once
Yeah.
they take, I think their objective is once they take away the truth from us, that we are the founders, the creators, the makers, the designers, the architects of this earth and of this universe, as we call it. Once they take that away from us, they have us. Because
True.
then we don't know who we are. We lose our nature, our identity. We
True.
we were the first people. We are melanated beings. We are in tune with the sun. It feeds us and regenerates us just like it does the grass, the plants, and so forth. We
True.
are one with nature.
Mm-hmm.
And we are the first people on the soil, on the earth, to even, as the Greeks said, to worship the creator. You
There you
know,
go.
yeah, and these things. So, and not to mention writing, mathematics, all sciences was a part of our religious spiritual system. In
It's
ancient,
true.
it wasn't science wasn't like a course you go to learn in school and it was something separate and distinct from who you are. No, everything was one. That's why our natures, what they call gods, is connected. One represents water, one
Right.
represents earth, one represents, it's all one. It's all in union.
Yes.
Is
Yes. Yes. I know that the Greeks they mention Hippocrates as
yeah,
as the father of medicine. I
yeah,
think that's who they
yeah,
refer to as the father of medicine.
yes,
But then you check the history and Hippocrates and them and even his ancients studied in Kemet as well.
yes,
Or you can have a man like Imhotep and what's the is it Imhotep was the father of
yeah.
medicine
Father of medicine, ancient
in
father of
in in,
medicine.
in Kemet. So
Yes, surgeries in ancient times, thousands of years ago. You
right,
understand? And even in medicine, everything you had, the Europeans learned the form of, say, the science of antiseptic and what you call microbiology.
yeah,
Through in back in the days in Europe, every woman that had a C-section would later die from infection.
mm-hmm.
She would become septic. So the Europeans heard of a tribe in Uganda now that was performing C-sections with almost 100% like mortality rate,
Mortality rate, yes,
where everyone was living and surviving. So these doctors went to Africa in the jungle, in the bush, where the so-called primitive lives, and the
right,
people create
primitive,
nothing.
mm-hmm.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And they watch these doctors perform this C-section surgery, and what they noticed, this is in the journals of medicine. You can check this from America to Europe. It's his actual facts. What they noticed was the doctors or the surgeons, because they don't want to give them, they call them bush doctors, right? But the surgeons
Mm-hmm.
were using banana wine to disinfect the areas after every cut, before every cut, after,
See,
and clean the wounds. And alcohol being an antiseptic now,
mm-hmm.
they realized that, and the surgeons told them, the bush surgeons told them that, listen, we can't see certain things, but they exist. And they were talking about microbiology hundreds of years ago before
Wow,
finding term as a science, you know?
Wow.
Yes, sir. So we are the most ancient civilization. For the Dogon tribe, we have places in Africa like Napta Playa. It's a place in Sudan where there's stone remnants and constructions, and they map with the different galaxies, different stars, clusters, and it's one of the most ancient places. It's over 10,000 years old. Then you have artifacts like the Ishango bone or the Ishango, however you
Shango.
want to
Yeah.
pronounce it, and that's like calculations of the moon cycles. And in order to create that, it was used for agriculture, but in order to create those calculations and those patterns, you had to study the planets for at least maybe 1,000 years, you know.
That's a
And
come out of where? Like Nigeria side?
Ashango was found in the Great Lakes region. I think it was in the Uganda region as
Uganda.
well, in Central Africa, the heart of Africa.
Yes, I.
So most unexplored part of Africa. And
Yes.
the ancient Kemites and the Ethiopians said that they come from the south, which is the interior of Africa, not the north. You know, civilization flowed along with the Nile,
Right.
and the Nile flows from south to north.
Right. Like from
Because
from down on the map, it would be from down to up.
Yes, I.
Right.
Well, not up, because how the land masses in Africa, the more interior or south you go in Africa, you go
The
higher.
higher you go.
Yes, I. So Ethiopia and the northeastern Africa and the Horn of Africa, it sits on high mountains and it's more elevated. So the Nile flows down that mountain into Kemet or into Egypt.
From south to north. I was saying,
Yeah.
on the map though, you know how on the map they have it where Ethiopia is down here and Kemet or ancient Egypt is up here. So they have it as like, as you said.
Yes, they have it. They have it inverted, to be honest, because even the map itself,
Even
our
the map.
ancestors. Yes, our ancestors. When we check their maps now, south was north and north was south and east was west, and east west was east. So yeah, they look to this. Yeah, they look to the south as home. They said that's where the god Happy dwells. You understand?
True.
Happy is the most ancient gods, which is the god of the Nile.
The Nile.
You know. Yeah, and even they call the land Staneter, which means land of the gods, in the Medu Neter tongue. So they know that that's where their ancestors come from, and civilization flowed with the Nile River from south to north of Africa, from the interior of Africa, the highland regions, to the north, which is Egypt, into the lower gates of Africa, which is Egypt. Because at one time, Egypt was a swamp area. And it's the inundation, the flood water, and the silt, and the richness of the Nile that the water brings down that created Egypt as we know it today.
Really?
Yeah.
So that almost sound like Florida, Bridget. Like how Florida is like mostly a type of swampland, but ones and ones build up on it and live on it. So, seeing that's interesting for think. So there were no mountains in Egypt as such. Egypt was lower land.
There's Egypt. It starts like a plant and it blossoms like a lotus, where the river starts forming small distributaries, and it gets. So when you go into the delta, the Nile Delta now, it's a lot of wetland, water, and these kind of things. So yeah, at one piece of time, years ago, it was mostly swamp and mostly water. And the ancient Egyptians tell you this, They tell you this. They said they formed Egypt from the silt that flowed down the Nile, It was a colony. It was an Ethiopian colony. Ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet was founded by an Ethiopian, kingdom. And they sent, emissaries and people out, and they formed the kingdom. That's why the emperors or the pharaohs of ancient Kemet were all Ethiopian in culture and stock. Even the Medu Neter, the hieroglyphics, was spoken fluently in Ethiopia, and only the nobility and royalty knew it in Kemet. They spoke like or general language, or broken, But the holy language, the sacred language, it was confined mostly to the royalty and nobility, and they were all Ethiopian or Kushite,
Right.
So know that civilization started in Ethiopia, and it worked its way down into Egypt, and Egypt became the greatest daughter of Ethiopia because all the mines of Africa they accumulated on the Nile banks, and they formed because Egyptian civilization or Kemetic civilization was a combination of all African genius and greatness. People from the south, people from the north, ancient ones. There was many different peoples that made up Kemet, many different, and they divided it into different nomes, or what we call like suburbs or boroughs,
Ah, seeing.
Yes. So it was
Because
made up of
city
many.
building and structure in cities and the infrastructure and the layout of the land and the layout of the city, urban
Yes.
planning and urban
Yes.
development already existed.
Already existed, So these are like, well, once again, we the point was that the Europeans would do anything and others would do anything to take the civilization and the creator out of Africa, But in reality, it all began in Africa, and we are the generators of all the world's cultures and technology. We just don't know who we are,
I was gonna
That's why they
ask you. I was gonna
yeah.
ask you, what is your personal thoughts on that? Because if you check India, isn't India a next daughter of Ethiopia?
Daughter of Ethiopia, another colony, but that was formed, I would say, a little shorter. Some argue that it's before Kemet, even though we have like ancient Indian like evidence of civilization there, but it wasn't as sophisticated until later down after Kemet. But India is a daughter of Ethiopia, and it said that it was a general. It was an Egyptian general who took his troops to India and colonized the area. You understand? And formed the world's first civilization.
Yeah, I've
But
heard
yeah,
some say that there's no connection between the Indian and the Ethiopian or the African. They're saying that the Dravidian is totally a distinct race of people from the Africans, the Ethiopians.
yeah, it's an attempt to divide us once again, to divide the African, the melanated people of the planet,
True.
The ancient story of Asar is that his body was dismembered into 13 or 14 pieces and scattered throughout the earth.
Right.
And that same story, I like to look at us as we are the body of Asar, the melanated people of the planet. And we are divided and scattered right now. And until we unite and come as one in everything, in thought, in knowledge, in science, in in lifestyle, in culture, and understanding that we are one people, right? And that we are the farmers and the keepers of the earth, then we're gonna continue to be divided by 1%, 10% of the planet.
True.
Yes.
True. Um, like how you talk about that as well. Um, you have Ethiopia, Kemet, India. You know anything about our presence in early Asia? Just anything off the
Forget it.
top?
Yeah, so one of my favorite scholars is a man by the name of Ivan van Sertima. His most famous work would probably be They Came Before Columbus.
You're
But
right.
he also has a lot of work dealing with Asia and the Indonesia and the Pacific areas.
Mhm.
So there's a book by him called The African Presence in Early Asia. And in this book he highlights him and another author, another late scholar by the name of Renoko Rashidi.
Yeah.
They highlight African presence in Asia, from the continent Asia to the islands to everything in the area.
Yeah,
And
the Philippines. Even if you look in the Philippines.
Indonesia, Melanesia,
Yeah.
all of those places.
Melanesia.
Yes, and that's
That's
named
not an
because of
accident.
black people there, really black people there. And that's what I mentioned when I said Kush conquered the earth.
True.
The Bible now, which is is a text that some use to like to accredit their knowledge or whatever their case may be, or the information. But even the Bible tells you that Nimrod became a mighty hunter before the Lord. You know, and Nimrod was the son of Cush, and he basically conquered the world, you know? And it's the same thing that the Ethiopian Empire stretched from the rising of the sun to the setting. They ruled. Yes, they ruled the planet. But that's why everywhere on planet Earth you go, the indigenous people are melanated people. They're black people. They're melanated diamond. They're, you know, people of color. And even into Asia, the most ancient people from Japan to China, all of those ancient dynasties was started and formed by ancient Ethiopian people who traveled there. That's why when Nat Geo did a study called the Human Family Tree, and they traced the mitochondria DNA and also the Y chromosome of the man, everything led back to Africa. Mm-hmm. You know, the more further out in Asia and Europe you went, the more like I would say less diverse the strands got. And the more you got to Africa now, the more diverse it got. It became like so much genetic material. Right. Because everybody from Africa. All human beings on the planet come from Africa. You know, some went and got caught out there in the last ice age, and you know, the nature changed them, just like nature changed and the animals of the earth. The birds, some have different color.
I think that's one thing a lot of people don't know, or they don't understand. You know what I mean? The fact that we've had different cycles throughout time. Cycle, you know, the earth is a cycle. Everything that happened on the earth is cyclical. And so you had various ice ages, and the human being is way older than they tell us, or, you know, we assume we are, because we've had to restart a couple times, right?
Yes, naturally, by nature, you know, like you said, it's cyclical. And there was once a time where the Sahara Desert was flourishing meadows and grasslands and fruit trees and lakes and rivers. You know, it's just the earth just shifts. The polarity of the planet shifts every so often, and things change. One part of the planet may be hot, the next part may be cold.
Yeah. And so, you know, once we factor that in, so maybe even the scriptures then, the Bible.
Yes.
What one's referred to as the Bible. When it talks about Noah's Ark and them thing there, you know, it's just probably a reference to one of those periods where, you know what I mean, the ice caps melted, the water level rose, and now you have these cataclysmic floods.
Yes, I agree. I believe it's the same thing naturally, you know, because a lot of civilizations on the planet talk about a great flood period where, you know, a lot of water was on the planet. And yeah, it can definitely be referring to, you know, one of those events.
There has been some type of agenda throughout history to take away the works of the indigenous ancestors, you know, to erase them from history. And I don't know why, Fireball. Why do you think that is? Because that's, to me, as much as mankind have evil and flaws, that just seem like, you know, why would you try to erase something that...
It's because, my opinion, it's because they know who we are. They know who we are and who we once were, meaning that we rule this planet. African people, melanated people, rule the planet Earth for over 10,000 years, right? Yeah. And there were times in our past where the invaders came and they took over. Egypt was once the seat of the world, meaning that whoever ruled Egypt controlled the world. And, you know, since those times now, we've been fighting them since King Menes the First, or who they call Narmer, which is the first person to unite Africa and to fight against the foreigners. Since he kicked them out and created a walled city called Memphis, right, in Egypt, times we've been at battle and at war with them, trying to invade and hold our seat of power and control
from
the
days
world.
Of Narmer?
Yes, King Menes the First, or Narmer, they call
King Menes. So, was it the people known as the
It was Hyksos. It was before the Hyksos invasion, right? But it was foreigners nevertheless.
Yeah.
We call them for the most part Asiatics. That's how we term.
I'm trying to get a idea of how these people look, you know, like what type of people were these? Is a mix between Asian and white people or what?
Um,
Not to be so blunt with it, but you
there's
know what I
a
mean?
there's a pharaoh, right, or an ancient emperor who has on his tomb. He has the depiction. I believe it's Ramses the third or the second. In his tomb, he has a depiction of the all different nations or races of men and people on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And he has an Ethiopian, an Egyptian, a European, and an Asian, you know? And he depicts the Ethiopian and the Egyptian with the same exact skin tone. You can't tell them apart from each other unless it's like certain distinctions in their clothes and their garments. And then he has a whiter, more northerner type, which would represent the European, the Indo-European. And then you have a more like what we call Middle Eastern looking guy,
Right.
and that would be Asians.
Right.
Yeah, so the Arabs of today that lives in Egypt, they're not the ancient Egyptians. They're not the ancient Africans. In fact, all Egyptian culture that exists there, from the pyramids to the statues, are haram to their culture and their spiritual practice, which means it's unclean. They only tolerate it because it brings in what you call tourism money, right? But the Asiatic people we talk about look like the Arabs today that invaded Egypt, under the Islamic invasion of Egypt.
Right. And these were the ones who Islamized Africa.
Exactly. Yes, definitely. They Islamized North Africa and all down into West Africa through the Saharan trails, the trade routes, the ancient Sahara trade routes.
Yes.
And they follow that and they Arabized Africa, West Africa, Senegal, the Malian states, those places.
Seen. Man, so what is this foolishness about America being the true Africa and America being the true birthplace of the indigenous man? Like, I hear there's some people talking some madness online, is the brethren. And they have huge followings, my G.
Yeah.
My lord, man, I get it. It's like the man them totally comfortable with spewing misinformation for views, for likes.
Mm-hmm.
Very strange.
It's a strange time we're living in, bro, because what I realize is that because the Western civilization suppresses the truth, it has created a pocket of people who are actually looking for the truth, but they don't have no discipline. They just, if it fits into their ideology,
right,
or if it devastates their ideology,
right, they don't want to hear it.
Exactly, or it presents something that seems a little different than the usual, but goes against the usual, they'll easily adhere to it without thoroughly investigating. And then everyone is an owner of a phone, and everyone wants to be an influencer, and so on and so forth. Everyone just wants attention.
Yes,
but true. So it's like a lot of independent people going around finding up their own information and not having sources that are factual or historical, or no discipline, no tech. I studied.
Some of them will find some truth and just run with that one thing, and or like connect that truth to some agenda that they have, which is totally unrelated, or you know what I mean, not connected to, you know what I mean.
I've seen a couple of reggae artists and some other people, and but young people pushing that same agenda.
Yes,
and it's hustling backwards. We going all the great work that those
saying,
have done and have revealed.
Look at the work that from Barashango, Van Sertima, Ronoka Rashidi, as you say,
Chekante Diop,
Chekante Diop, Benyo Cannon,
John Henry Clark, some of the
Clark,
that came before us, who went to universities and had to endure racism on their studies, during their studies, all kind of segregation. Dr. Ben had to go to Arab and pretend to be Muslim in order to reach those documents and files that show us who we are, that the enemies of Africa know who we are and hide it from us purposely. And here we come now, in giving some kind of credit to us. We are just tired of the lies. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
We get tired of the lies. And eventually what we do is we get tired of a set of lies and we just find anything, any truth, and we try to run with that and build off of that. But there's only one truth, and the foundation is in the continent of Africa. Egypt is not in America. Then the Mississippi River is not the Nile River. You understand?
Stuff like
And
that, Bridget. I'm
yeah,
glad you
these are
said.
things that have to be established, and some people must speak the truth, and Rasta must speak the truth. We
Especially
can't
Rasta.
hear
Yeah.
to because Ethiopia is in Africa. Ethiopia is the source of the Nile River. The Italian-Ethiopian War was fought. World War II was fought over these things. You know,
No, man, you have
too
to
much
go into
blood
that,
has
Bridget. I
shed.
never know that. What are you talking about?
Well, Italy tried to invade Ethiopia to take the source of the Nile, which is the Lake Tana.
Why would they
Okay, which
want that?
comes
What's
through
the
now.
significance of that? For those who
What?
don't know.
Say it again.
What's the significance of that for those who don't know? Why would Italy want to control the source of the Nile?
Yeah, it's the breadbasket of the world. The Nile River produces, I think, 10 to 30% of the world's grain.
Wow.
It yeah, it's one of the most fertile places on the planet.
Did not
Even the
know that.
current generated from the water can probably light the entire Africa. Then even right now we have the Ethiopian dam project.
Mm-hmm.
That's able to just partially powered. It's able to contribute light to over 3 nations, millions of people. To give them power. So it's very significant. It's the source of all. It's where the most ancient civilizations stood. So the Nile River, Egypt, the cultures of the Nile River, Ethiopian, Egyptian, Sudanese, Nubian, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
it's the oldest civilizations of the planet. And whoever claims that civilization claims to be the creators of civilization itself. So that's why they fight so hard to take Egypt out of Africa, take creation out of Africa,
Yes,
and take everything else out of Africa. But the truth stands. That's why there's Decanesh. That's why Ethiopia was never conquered. That's why
the
we have
pyramids still stand.
pyramids. We have the Step Pyramid. We have Napta Playa. We have so many things in Ethiopia.
What they
And in
want called
and
Kush. How many
yes,
pyramids
sir.
in Uganda, Mali?
All over,
You have the
King sir.
Dogon tribe.
Yes, sir.
Look
Yes,
how the
sir. So,
Dogon been talking about um, Sirius B
yes, sir.
from long
Just-
time, the dark star, without
Yeah,
using a telescope.
yeah, over 50 years prior to the Europeans, them, not 50 years, but they found out about it 50
Right.
years, them inventing a telescope to actually prove to themselves because we knew. The Dogon people knew, the ancient ones always know the truth,
Mhm.
There's nothing new under the sun.
Mhm.
There was plumbing thousands of years ago in Egypt. There was electricity thousands of years ago in Egypt. There was even aerodynamics where people were flying vehicles. I don't want to call them airplanes, right?
Right.
But there's structures
Spacecraft, flying craft.
flying crafts. There's nothing new under the sun. In fact, I would say we have digressed.
I think
as
so.
a
I think
yeah,
some people that hear this and think we're crazy, but with all this technology, what is man doing now?
exactly.
If this is the heights of technology and this is what's happening in Earth, nothing but war and all this is this money, all these resources, all these mental resources as well going into warfare
Yes, sir.
instead of creating a better world.
Yes,
And
sir.
it
Well, His
tricks us to
Majesty
believe
told
that
us.
the war is going to create a better world when that's impossible because we've never seen that being proved. That's
Yes,
never
sir.
been proven,
Yes, sir. In
especially
truth,
from
war is just destruction. War
Yeah.
is just destruction.
yeah.
And His Majesty has taught us that war is never the answer. And that until the world unites, there shall be no peace. Until white supremacy is destroyed, which is the philosophy that holds one race superior. That philosophy is called white supremacy. Until it's destroyed, the world will know no peace.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Miles Monroe spoke about that same white supremacy and what it really is, what it means, because some people Some people don't understand racism, you know. Some people feel like because a man call you a nigger, that's racism. You know, they don't understand what the institution of racism is one man's ability to control an next man's future,
Yes,
you know, entirely through his own decisions, you know, control how that man think, how that man eat, affect
mm,
if that man can get a bank loan,
true.
you know, how that
That,
man is seen by the public. All of that is a part of it. And, you know, ones and ones don't really understand that aspect of racism. And so, like Miles Monroe spoke about it. I posted a video clip of it the other day on my YouTube channel where he was saying the roots of this thing, right? What we know as white supremacy, coming far back from Greece and Rome,
I,
right? It's a Greco-Roman, you know, ideology where
mhm.
I mean it's partially because I hear say the caste system is probably older, but I could deal with this because I don't even know how true that is. But let's deal with
But
this.
if so,
Mm.
another country, brother, the caste system was created by invaders from the north, northerners. You understand? You understand? They
Yes,
came
I.
in, pushed the melanated the African Indians further to the south,
Right,
right?
right.
And they created that caste system. So anyway you put it, it's the same thing.
That's why
It's
I
from
would I think.
origin.
That's why I would think it came after. So if the caste is, I was talking to somebody not to go off on a tangent, right? But
Mm-hmm.
now that we're talking about this, India,
Yes, sir.
Hinduism, you
Mm-hmm.
would think that Hinduism is something so powerful that the caste system couldn't exist within India.
No way.
That's something I was thinking the other day. I'm like, if Hinduism was so powerful and so good for the people, how did the caste system originate after Hinduism?
I Yeah, so Hinduism come from Brahmanism. You understand? And Brahmanism is where the caste system. They had even laws called the laws of Manu,
What
which
you
were
said to me?
which is basically the caste system in a written form. And it's from northern. These northern white people who came out of the mountains and the Caucasus area, and they
Mm-hmm.
invaded India. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and when they came, they created this ideology. They even all right. So we have a scholar by the name of Marco Polo. Marco Polo was once a famous traveler
Right.
scholar who traveled throughout the earth.
Yeah.
When Marco Polo first journeyed into what we know as India today, Marco Polo wrote that the Indians there or the people there were they painted their gods black and the devils white. When a
Wow.
child was born,
I think I
the
saw
parents
something like that. You know, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, definitely. You can look up everything I'm telling you today, and anyone listening can Google, can research for themselves. It's 100% factual, you know?
True.
And Marco Polo said that the people, the mothers and the parents would anoint their children with sesame oil when they were born to make their skin more darker. The most beautiful person there were the blackest people, the people with the most African features, biggest lips, curly hair. They were the most considered the most beautiful people. And you know, the more whiter a person was, it was frowned upon. So these are things that existed in India before the Brahmin invasion, you know. And when the Brahmins came, they did the absolute reverse. What
Right.
they did, because same thing happened all over Europe, all over America, everywhere that they came in contact with us, our institutions of beauty, our standards of it was proud of how we look. Our gods look like
Of
us, which
course.
is a
Of
curse,
course.
you know.
Natural.
And when they came now, they saw that, and because they were most of them were unmelanated, they were, you know, they were stuck in the ice age for thousands of years, so their skin was palmy and milky,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, the hair, however it is,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't like that. They were very xenophobic. Being trapped in the ice for thousands of years created many problems within
Yeah.
the northerners mentality, you know,
Can imagine.
and social system where it becomes force dominated. Where with us, we were sitting on the banks of the Nile eating fruits and smelling lotus flowers, where reason became more of the you know, the method for us.
Yeah.
And
Like
for
we
them,
started to philosophize everything
yes,
and make sense of
exactly.
life.
Yeah, we were well fed and well groomed and well kept, you know.
Yes,
When
I.
they were hungry, naked and smelly and, you know, cold. You know, so it is a difference. They survival for them became kill or, you know, run or what they call
Kill
it?
or be
Run or,
killed.
yeah, flight or fright, you know.
Yeah, yes.
Literally, not just in a natural aspect of all human beings, but that was their lifestyle, their social system. It was, and then it was either kill or die, you know. So that's why we see all the wars of the planet Earth is majorly responsible by European people and the northerner people, you know.
So, what would you say to
Mm-hmm.
somebody who would argue that that's just the nature of mankind? That's not necessarily a black or white thing because you've had wars in Africa before. Um, why it is their way of life, worse than the original man, the original African man, or you know, how
Well,
did
I
they
would
come
say to
and
them,
take it to change
mhm.
it if we've always been fighting and tribe against tribe, nation against nation has been a thing before they ran into these places, like
Well,
before they came out
mm,
of the mountains,
yes, sir.
out of the
Well, I would
ice.
say naturally, right? Naturally, people get into conflicts. Yes, wars were fought, you know, conflicts was had.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between us and them is they're evil, what I like to call their evil genius, where these people specialize in death. You know, no, like where was a gun created? Where was missiles and atomic
Mm-hmm.
bombs and these things that um, have the capacity to wipe out so much life? You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
destroy life. It was
It go
created
back to
by
what,
them because
but it go
it's
back
one.
to what you say
Yeah,
about technology because
yeah,
it would mean nothing is new. Because if we give them that, then right, then this idea that we're at the heights of civilization now goes out the window because what they say now is that they use these technologies to get to where they are today, the guns and the rate and blah. But it's like no, we had technology before. Y'all weren't the most technologically advanced. We just never, the ancestors just never used their technology for evil,
to kill.
to kill. We could have
Yeah.
easily created technology for mass destruction, but that was
Mm.
never the intention. Even with wars, even when one nation are war against the next nation or tribe against the next tribe, is not to ultimately destroy, 100 people with one press of a trigger.
Yeah, yeah. Even when we had wars with ourselves, we would. It wouldn't be to the death. If you're wounded, you would, you know, be
There's rules
pardoned.
to the yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Many times there was a king called King Taharka of ancient Kush, and he was the last Kushite pharaoh to sit on the throne of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
He marched his army from the south to the north of Egypt,
That's
and
the name of your
every
son, right?
say it again.
That's the name of your prince,
Yes, that's
Taharka.
the name of my son as well.
Yeah,
You know,
the great
so,
Taharka. Yeah,
yes, I
not to
named
cut
after
it.
the great King Taharka. And
Great
my
youth.
yes, I my son, just like the King Taharka, was born on the first day of the year. You
Wow.
know, according to their respective calendars.
You
You
see
know,
that?
so just a coincidence I want to throw there. You know? I find
It's
coincidence to put.
Irvine, man. Yeah. Real
Right.
talk. Real talk.
So no, King Taharka, when he marched his army, he had to pass like a bunch of major cities with their own standing armies. And majority of the time when he marched to Egypt to capture the throne from the foreigners and kick them out, most of the people surrendered in peace because they welcomed their kin, their brothers and, you know, their family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they know that this king. So even in them times, we lived to a certain degree, even we fought to a certain degree
Yeah.
where we
Yeah.
understood that this was our brother and may have a conflict.
Yeah.
So most of our warfare wasn't to the death.
It's
We
true.
weren't killing soldiers and capturing them. Even captured people during warfare could rise to become king within a
Yes.
nation.
I've seen tribal wars in Africa, like even on Nat Geo, they would show you like two various tribes warring, right? And they would stand on either side of like a hillside, and they'd be throwing spears and stuff at each other. See it? But you can tell they don't really want to run up into each other and just chop each other into pieces. You understand? There's these rules. There's these rules how they engage. You know what I
Yes, sir.
mean?
Rules of engagement.
Yeah.
Ancient.
If two or three of them warriors get pierced, the man them a go retreat. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
sir.
Them now try to put them warriors on the battlefield for us dead off on the front lines. You understand?
Yes, sir.
It's like
Because
we
in
continue this war the next day. Right? You mess up
right.
about 4 or 5 hour soldiers who can't afford. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Because life is the priority in Africa.
Exactly.
Life is the priority. That's why even to get a little bit off a topic,
Mm-hmm.
homosexuality is not accepted in Africa majority. You understand? And
True.
it maybe will never be accepted in Africa
True.
because life is always a priority. Life and the preservation of life is a priority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And don't
You're
get me wrong,
you're right.
from
You're right.
there's a difference between the modern African and the ancient African because we have been Europeanized and westernized and
Exactly.
foreignized,
Yes.
to a certain degree now where we have taken up the brutality against our brother and our sister, where we can starve and misplace and kill what's going on in the Congo and throughout Africa in different parts right now is proof and evidence of that,
Mm-hmm. I've heard
So,
that we're warring people though. I've heard that one of the reasons why we fight so much is because some of us come from warlike tribes, like warrior tribes.
yes, truly, truly.
Mm-hmm.
There were many different warrior tribes that lived in Kemet, the Maasai being one of them.
Mm-hmm. And then
And
on in West Africa there now and South Africa and side like
all over,
off the Gold
yes,
Coast and them place. So where they took our ancestors from or where we departed from.
yes,
Ghana and
yeah.
them place
Our
there.
social system consisted of many different classes,
Mm-hmm.
and we had the warrior class, and these were certain people who, by their nature, were fiery. They
Yeah.
were fiery, and they were put and disciplined. And had structure. It wasn't just, oh, I'm a warrior, I have a gun or a knife or a
It's a
sword.
hothead.
I'm a no, it was order. You know,
Yeah.
order and discipline that govern our societies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that make more sense than cause some people would attribute well, you see that maybe now that could I come into our next dimension with the start then is it that they selected the warrior tribes for enslavement? You know what I mean? It's like because I would think they selected the docile people to enslave them when they went into Africa, the interiors.
Yeah, well, it was a mixture of both, to be honest with you. But you onto something because, in truth, there's a scholar in Atlanta, based in Atlanta. His name is Marlimo Baruti, and he's a great African-centered scholar. And one of the things he said was that the Europeans didn't go into Africa to get vagabonds and bums and people standing on the corner and on the street side. In fact, there wasn't many of that in our ancient civilizations.
Straight.
But they went for farmers. They went for people who knew, skilled workers, laborers, people who knew craft. They went to West Africa where they grew a lot of agriculture. They went to, like, for instance, Benjamin Banneker. Benjamin Banneker was
Washington D.C.
Yes, Washington D.C. was an ancient architect, astrologist, and his family was from West, I believe, from the Dogon people, right? And they're known for what did they do? Rice cultivation, I believe.
Okay.
And even what is it? The area in America, I think it's South Carolina, where they're famous for rice. That tribe of people were like rice farmers in ancient Africa.
That's
So
very interesting, Virgin. Yeah.
his created the first almanac, America's first almanac, right? And he was a son of a slave, and his people studied the stars.
Yes.
So that's how come now he was able to design America's first almanac, which basically is like using the stars to calculate cultivation of the earth.
When to plant, yes. When to reap. Yes,
what to plant, when to plant, and when is the best time here, in what conditions, these things.
When to fish, when not to fish, when the tide is high and low, and yeah.
So they didn't come and get bums; they came and get professors from Timbuktu.
Of course. Of course.
That's why people like these genius people who came in and change America's direction and implemented all these technological improvements. because they came from great people. They were the children and grandchildren of thinkers and creators.
True.
You know,
Toussaint clearly never come from no average. You know, the ones
no average.
who fought the Haitian Revolution. You know, Nanny of the Maroons and some of these
Yeah.
ancient ones. You know,
Yes, I. They
Frederick
were sons,
Douglass.
daughters of kings and queens.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely
Yeah.
believe that because Cristobal Colon, that Italian brother there.
Yes, I.
No, no, no more guide him and African guide him come them side there. Or one of them brother there. I'm not sure if it's
Yeah.
Cristobal, but I know say I probably Americus Vespucci. One of them ancient ones there is not. I mean,
A lot of
Columbus as well. Cause clearly he was trying to come to America, and never made it to America. He got trapped in the islands.
Yes, sir. Yeah, a lot of the European conquistadors and explorers were guided by their Moorish guiders, you know, because most of the time the Moors control the sciences, and especially they were specialists in navigation prior to the Europeans picking it up.
I want to know something because you know that you talk about that. Go finish what you're saying. Sorry.
Yeah, so a lot of the guides were Moorish. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Know that we're talking about Moors because this is one of the things I found out. And I think we mentioned it earlier too, in our previous reasoning that we had. The Moors were also responsible for a lot of wrongdoings within the continent, a lot of selling out. A lot of selling out and ones parading around to this day as Moors, as if, you know, first of all, it's this blanket statement that go for um, black people who are of the nation of Morocco, right? And there's just these blanket statements. Oh, you have the marooned people in Jamaica who consider themselves a separate people, right, from the rest of the enslaved people who were in Jamaica, because some of them were able to go up into the mountains, right, and create their own, livity, create their own society as outside from, the British and Spanish and whoever. Now, my thing is, we saw what happened throughout history. Those same people, those same quote unquote Moors, right, who were marooned, right, and call themselves Maroons, they were involved in what we could have said is a selling out of I and I people. And that is after we come over here to the Western world. Don't even talk about what happened on the continent that led to I and I ancestors' demise in a sense and us coming this side. You can talk on that?
It's true. Is to chime in on what you're saying, is dangerous because once again it's when we don't know ourselves as a people and we don't know our history, we are easily led astray. You know, there's a proverb that says too much freedom leads to enslavement. You know.
There you go.
And it speaks upon like not knowing who you are, not knowing where you're from, not having guides in your life, and discipline. Anything can happen, and even lead into enslavement again. So and I think we not heading to enslavement again, but we are at a place where it's very dangerous because it's like information overload and nothing there to cipher that information.
Physical slavery, because like mentally.
Yes.
Them shackles, brother. The shackle them.
Yeah, definitely, because they don't know who we are. They don't know what we went through.
Yeah.
It's dangerous because the more is now when you take history, and it's part of like what you just said about the warrior class. When Europeans came into Africa, right, on their slave trade, now a lot of African tribes were powerful. They don't write about this. They don't tell us about these things. A lot of them they couldn't defeat. For instance, the Ghanaian Empire fought 100 years war with the British. Queen Nzinga of Angola fought 40 years against the Portuguese. 40 years.
40 years as a female warrior.
The queen ruled as a sovereign. Most of our ruling time was fought during was like just warfare. and her name sent fear to the minds of the Portuguese rulers and the king of Portugal. You know, she was a thorn in his side. So a lot of these tribes who were powerful and was able to resist the European onslaught made
big up, zing zing.
Yes, the
Well, yeah.
princess. Yes, I. So now,
Those who don't know, you know.
yes, that's right, princess, my daughter, the I
Yes,
refer
I.
named after Queen Nzinga. Yes, I. It's a
Powerful name.
liberty.
That's
This
why
thing is.
once for name them youths powerful names, you see, they are got Taharkan and Zinga. Those are names the youths them can live up to and feel great to aspire to achieve some of the great things, you know.
Yeah, man. I look at a TikTok the other day, and a young boy, was asking some young people like, name an African king, and the brethren couldn't name an African king.
Wow.
But yeah, so these are things that we need to know who we are, where we come from, in order to know who we are.
Yeah.
So that's
You were
like I have
talking about the wars, though, the European wars against the Africans resisting,
Yes,
slavery. Man and man that were just volunteer and
yeah. There's a warfare that's been existing and existing to this very day in some places in Africa. Even look at Libya recently, what's going on there. So, yeah, man. So when the Europeans came into Africa now, right, there were some tribes who resisted, and what they did was make truce with these tribes and hire these tribes to capture other Africans, like the Dahomey tribe. They made a movie called A Queen King, or what is it, or Warrior, or Queen King, or King Queen, or something like that.
Right. I didn't even watch it, my brother. I was turned off.
Yeah.
I never liked the concept. It seemed like a weird way to continue this Black Panther narrative,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was based upon the Dahomey Amazonians, the warrior women of the kingdom of Dahomey.
Of South Africa. South America, sorry.
Oh, no, it was actually West Africa.
West Africa. Dahomey.
Yeah.
Damn. Why am I getting that messed up? That's embarrassing.
Well, Amazonians, excuse me.
Yes.
But that's just to show you that the term Amazonian warrior was referred to women in Africa. Not necessarily women in the Amazon rainforest.
So what's the connection? There must be a connection.
Yeah, there may be a connection because I believe it comes from a Greek mythology about women warriors.
Okay. Yeah.
We all know that the Greeks studied at the foot of the Africans.
Right.
So it goes hand in hand. That's why Zeus and Ethiopia and Mount Olympus and all of these things, it sounds similar to African stories because they were based upon African deities and principles,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So who's to say that when they were referring to the Amazonians, the Greeks, they weren't talking about the Dahomey warrior queens,
Yeah.
So, and other different tribes where women took up warriorhood,
Yeah, Virgin. Deep.
Yes, sir.
Deep.
Yeah,
all right, yo, we've been talking about this for a while. You know what? God, there's so much to talk about, Star. Make we take a turn off on our next avenue where I deal with Egypt and Ethiopia, or what them call Egypt and Ethiopia.